You probably think your data is valuable because companies can sell it, but that's not the most valuable thing about it. Your name isn't the real asset. Your email isn't the real asset. Your phone number isn't even the most interesting part. The real value is hidden in something much harder to see, because companies don't just want to know who you are. They want to understand what you do, what you click, what you ignore, what makes you stop scrolling, what makes you come back, and eventually, what you're likely to do next. And once millions of those tiny behaviors are connected, something much bigger happens. Your data stops being a record of the past. It becomes a prediction of the future. And that is why your data may be worth more than money. Because money can be spent once, but behavioral data can keep producing value. Again, and again, and again. Every day, you leave behind thousands of signals. Most of them don't feel important. You search for something. You scroll past something else. You watch one video for 3 seconds, and another for 30. You open one product and ignore another. To you, these are just ordinary moments. To a technology company, they're measurements. And measurements become signals. Enough signals become patterns. And patterns become something companies can predict. Think about the difference. Knowing that you watched a video tells a company something. But knowing that you watched it until the end, came back 3 days later, shared it, and then watched another video about the same subject tells them much more. Suddenly, the company doesn't just know what happened, it has a clue about why it happened. And that distinction is where the real value begins. This is the part most people miss. The most valuable data isn't always the information you intentionally provide. Sometimes, it's the information you reveal without realizing it. But if companies can learn this much from individual behavior, imagine what happens when they collect that behavior from millions of people. Then, billions. That's when individual data becomes something much bigger. One person's behavior can be interesting. Millions of people's behavior can become predictive. Because once enough people behave in similar ways, patterns begin to repeat. And repeated patterns can be modeled. A platform can learn that people who watch one type of video often watch another. That people who search for one product often buy another. That people who pause on certain content are more likely to return later. None of those predictions require the company to know exactly what you are thinking. They only need enough behavioral evidence to recognize what people like you tend to do next. And this is where data becomes intelligence. Raw information tells you what happened. Behavioral intelligence helps estimate what is likely to happen next. And prediction is incredibly valuable because businesses don't just want to understand customers, they want to anticipate them. Before the purchase, before the click, before the decision. Imagine knowing which customer is most likely to buy, which person is most likely to click, which viewer is most likely to keep watching, which product is most likely to be ignored. At massive scale, that knowledge becomes a competitive advantage. That's why data isn't valuable only because it can be sold. It's valuable because it can improve decisions, better recommendations, better advertising, better products, better forecasts, and ultimately, more money. And this changes the economics of the internet because the company that understands behavior better can often make better predictions. The company with better predictions can make better decisions. And better decisions compound. That's why some of the world's most powerful companies have spent years building systems that understand human behavior at extraordinary scale. They're not simply collecting information, they're building prediction engines. But there is a problem. The more data a company collects, the more powerful its predictions can become. And the more powerful those predictions become, the more valuable the underlying data becomes. Think about what happens when one company has millions of behavioral signals, while another has billions. The difference isn't just storage, it's learning. More behavior creates more patterns. More patterns create more opportunities to predict. This is one reason data can create a strange kind of advantage. The more a system learns, the better it can become at recognizing what people are likely to do. And the better it predicts, the more useful the system becomes. And unlike a traditional asset, data doesn't disappear when it's used. The same behavioral information can help improve a recommendation, train a model, target an advertisement, or influence what someone sees next. That's what makes behavioral data so unusual. It can be reused, combined, compared, and continuously transformed into new predictions. And this is where the value of your data starts to become difficult to measure, because the value isn't sitting inside one piece of information. It's inside the network, created when millions of pieces of information interact. And now, something even bigger is happening. Artificial intelligence is making behavioral data more valuable because AI systems need something to learn from. And the internet is producing an enormous amount of human behavior every second. Every search, every conversation with a digital system, every preference, every correction, every interaction can potentially become another signal about how humans behave. The important question is no longer simply, what does this company know about me? It's becoming, what can this company predict about me? Because knowing that you bought something yesterday is useful. Knowing what you're likely to buy tomorrow can be far more valuable. And the more accurate those predictions become, the more valuable the system becomes to businesses. That means the competition for data is increasingly becoming a competition for predictive power. And that brings us to the uncomfortable part. If your behavior helps create this predictive power, who actually owns the value created from it? The person generating the behavior? The company collecting it? Or the system learning from millions of people at once? You create the behavior. You create the clicks. You create the searches. You create the attention. But most of the infrastructure interpreting those signals belongs to someone else. And that's the paradox of the data economy. The raw material comes from billions of people, but the systems capable of turning that raw material into prediction are concentrated in relatively few hands. And that concentration matters, because prediction isn't just about knowing people, it's about influencing what happens next. If a system can predict what you'll probably want, it can also decide what you're most likely to see. That's why the value of data doesn't stop at advertising. It reaches recommendation systems, search, commerce, AI assistants, and increasingly, the system's deciding what information reaches us, which means the real asset isn't simply your data. It's the ability to turn your data into understanding, understanding into prediction, and prediction into action. Money has a limit. You spend it, and it's gone. But a behavioral signal can keep working. It can improve a recommendation today and help train a prediction tomorrow. It can help decide what you see, what you buy, what you're recommended, and what a machine learns about people like you. That's why the world's most powerful technology companies aren't simply fighting to collect more information. They're fighting to understand human behavior at greater scale, with greater accuracy, and faster than everyone else. Because the company that predicts behavior better can understand demand faster, can personalize better, can recommend more accurately, can automate more decisions, and potentially capture more value. And that leads to a much bigger question. If behavioral data can become prediction, and prediction can become power, then the real resource of the digital economy may not be money at all. It may be human behavior. Money has a limit. You spend it, and it's gone. But a behavioral signal can keep working. It can improve a recommendation today and help train a prediction tomorrow. It can help decide what you see, what you buy, what you're recommended, and what a machine learns about people like you. That's why the world's most powerful technology companies aren't simply fighting to collect more information. They're fighting to understand human behavior at greater scale, with greater accuracy, and faster than everyone else.